There was a time when Israel Adesanya was untouchable. The last stylebender seemed like a martial arts prodigy who could read his opponent's every move, dismantle them with precision, and remind the world why striking was considered the purest art in combat sports. Yet now, questions swirl around his future. With 3 consecutive losses and 5 overall in his professional career, many fans and analysts are asking, has Israel Adesanya's reign at the top come to an end? Is this the beginning of a slow decline, or does the former middleweight king still have the fire to reclaim glory? In this video, we'll break down his meteoric rise, his shocking defeats, the reasons behind his struggles, and whether Adesanya has what it takes to bounce back, or if this is truly the end of his legendary run.
Let's take a look. This is just beautiful work here. Oh, right off the dome. I don't know how Costa ate that one. Split him open, though, and at this point, his legs are gone. I mean, he was trying to put on a good poker face, but his legs were trashed by Israel Adesanya. Here, look at that slip. Boom, there's that slide back left hand right off the temple, drops him, and Israel goes in for the kill, starts smashing him with hammer fist. Very similar to the finish against Robert Whittaker here, and the way that they end up in this awkward position, ends up getting mount though, and you see how badly he wants to land those elbows with all the trash talk, all the smack talk that's been happening.
The rise of a striking genius. Israel Adesanya's journey to the UFC was anything but ordinary. Born in Nigeria and raised in New Zealand, he built his name first in kickboxing, where he developed a fluid and creative striking style. His ability to blend feints, angles, and unpredictable attacks made him a nightmare to prepare for. When he transitioned to mixed martial arts, many wondered if his kickboxing skills would translate against well-rounded fighters who could grapple, wrestle, and pressure him differently. He answered those doubts quickly. Within just a year of joining the UFC in 2018, Adesanya climbed the rankings with impressive wins over Derek Brunson and Anderson Silva. By 2019, he had captured the interim middleweight belt in a Fight of the Year battle against Kelvin Gastelum, showcasing not only his striking but also his heart and resilience. Later that same year, he unified the title by defeating Robert Whittaker in spectacular fashion, knocking him out in the second round in front of a record-breaking Australian crowd. At that point, Israel Adesanya wasn't just a champion. He was considered one of the most complete strikers the UFC had ever seen.
Declaring the winner by TKO and still the undisputed UFC middleweight champion of the world, Israel, the last style bender, Adesanya!
The era of dominance. From 2019 to 2022, Adesanya reigned supreme in the middleweight division. He defended his belt multiple times against some of the toughest contenders in the division, including Yoel Romero, Paulo Costa, Marvin Vettori, and Jared Cannonier. Each victory highlighted different aspects of his game. Against Romero, he showed patience and discipline in a low-output fight. Against Costa, he delivered a flawless striking clinic, finishing the Brazilian with a knockout. Against Vettori and Cannonier, he proved his ability to control distance and dictate the pace of the fight. His ability to remain calm under pressure and pick his opponents apart from range made him seem almost invincible. For a while, fans wondered if anyone could ever touch him at 185 pounds. His charisma, unique entrances, and swagger outside the octagon only amplified his star power. Israel Adesanya wasn't just winning. He was building a legacy that looked destined to be remembered alongside legends like Anderson Silva. The first major setback. Adesanya's first career loss came in 2021, but it wasn't at middleweight. He attempted to make history by moving up to light heavyweight to challenge Jan Blachowicz for a second belt. Many admired his courage, but the fight exposed the limits of his style against bigger, stronger opponents. Blachowicz used his size and grappling to neutralize Adesanya's striking, winning by unanimous decision. While this loss didn't affect his middleweight dominance, it served as the first crack in the aura of invincibility. Critics began to point out that Adesanya was not unbeatable, and his style might have vulnerabilities that the right fighter could exploit. rivalry with Alex Pereira. If there's one name that has haunted Adesanya throughout his career, it's Alex Pereira. The two fought twice in kickboxing, with Pereira winning both, including one devastating knockout. When Pereira entered the UFC and quickly rose through the ranks, the storyline wrote itself. In 2022, at UFC 281, the two finally met inside the octagon for the middleweight title. Adesanya was ahead on the scorecards heading into the final round, but Pereira unleashed a barrage of punches that forced the referee to step in, handing Adesanya his first loss at middleweight. It was a crushing defeat, not only because he lost the belt, but because he had been so close to winning before Pereira's power changed everything. However, in 2023, Adesanya got his revenge at UFC 287. In one of his most iconic performances, he knocked Pereira out in the second round, reclaiming his middleweight championship and silencing critics who believed Pereira had his number forever. That win seemed to restore his dominance, but it also marked the last high point of his career, at least so far.
Let's take a look at some of the work early on. I mean, that right hand from Sean Strickland. Now look at this knockdown from Sean Strickland. It's the 1-2, and it's the way that he throws it. He doesn't recoil. It's just the rhythm of Sean Strickland right in his face, and then the ground. I mean, I don't know how many shots he got off here, but this right hand right down the middle as Izzy was trying to hook around.
Hats off to the official for not getting nervous.
The shocking loss to Sean Strickland. In September 2023, Israel Adesanya faced Sean Strickland at UFC 293. On paper, Adesanya was a heavy favorite. Strickland was respected, but not considered elite enough to dethrone a striker of Adesanya's caliber. What followed shocked the MMA world. Strickland walked Adesanya down from the opening bell, pressuring him, cutting off the cage, and never allowing him to find his rhythm. Adesanya looked tentative and unable to pull the trigger, while Strickland kept landing clean shots. By the end of 5 rounds, the judges had no choice but to award Strickland a unanimous decision victory. Adesanya not only lost his title again, but the way he lost raised serious concerns. It wasn't just a bad night, it looked like his confidence and timing were fading. For the first time, fans started asking, was Adesanya declining?
He sees that he was rocked, jumped straight for the finish. He knew that he had Adesanya hurt from those shots he landed, so went straight for the choke like he did in the earlier round and sinks it in, gets both hooks in and finishes the fight. That is so difficult to do on somebody like this style bender.
And this win really had it all for Dricus du Plessis, responded to adversity in kind.
The fall continues. Du Plessis and Imavov. The next opportunity for redemption came in August 2024 when Adesanya faced Dricus du Plessis at UFC 305. This fight was billed as a grudge match, with plenty of heated words exchanged beforehand. Yet once the cage door closed, it was Du Plessis who delivered. After a competitive first few rounds, Du Plessis shocked the world by submitting Adesanya in the 4th round with a face crank, marking the first submission loss of Adesanya's professional MMA career. The defeat was a bitter pill to swallow, as it showed that not only could he be outstruck, but he could also be broken on the ground. Just 6 months later,
and then big uppercut along the fence and to his base, but Imavov all over him here at the end. Didn't like that stoppage, and his coach gave him a look like,
Nasruddin, the sniper, Imavov!
in February 2025, Adesanya suffered perhaps the most devastating defeat of his career. Facing rising contender Nasruddin Imavov, Adesanya was knocked out in the 2nd round by punches, suffering a TKO loss. 3 consecutive defeats, each in a different way, decision, submission, and knockout, painted a grim picture. Suddenly, the once dominant champion looked vulnerable everywhere. What went wrong? Analyzing Adesanya's decline requires a closer look at multiple factors. First, age plays a role. At 35, Adesanya is not old by normal standards, but in combat sports, reaction time, speed, and durability can start to decline. He built his career on being quicker and sharper than everyone else, but against younger fighters like Imavov, those advantages seem less pronounced. Second, stylistic matchups have exposed flaws. Strickland's relentless pressure, Du Plessis' grappling, and Imavov's power all highlighted different weaknesses in Adesanya's game. Third, the mental aspect cannot be ignored. Confidence is everything in striking, and once a fighter hesitates, openings appear. In recent fights, Adesanya has looked less willing to take risks, more tentative, and easier to read. critics suggest that the hunger that once drove him may no longer be there. Finally, preparation and tactics may also be to blame. Opponents have studied his patterns extensively. Without adjustments, his signature feints and counters no longer have the same effect.
And for you to close the show the way you did tonight was so spectacular and so cements your legacy as one of the greatest of all time. Bro, I'm telling you, even no matter what, Alex is a great champion, no matter what. He lost the belt tonight, but he will always be a champion. In his story, I'm the antagonist. In his story, I'm the bad guy. But tonight, it's my story. History.
Reasons for hope. Despite the recent setbacks, writing off Israel Adesanya completely might be premature. History shows that he has the ability to bounce back. After his first 2 losses to Pereira, he returned with a spectacular knockout to reclaim his belt. He has proven that he can learn from mistakes and rise again. Even now, his skill set remains elite. His striking accuracy, distance control, and fight IQ are still among the best in the sport. 1 or 2 adjustments in training and mindset could make him competitive again. Moreover, his experience is unmatched. Few fighters in the division have faced the same level of opposition. That kind of battle-tested background can never be underestimated. If Adesanya truly finds his motivation and hunger again, a comeback is not impossible. What needs to change? For Adesanya to return to form, several changes are essential. First, he may need to reinvent his training approach. Bringing in new coaches, sparring partners, or even changing camps could give him fresh perspectives. Second, strategic fight selection could help him rebuild confidence. Instead of jumping straight into title fights, he might benefit from matchups against fighters who play to his strengths. Third, he must address his grappling vulnerabilities. Spending more time on wrestling and submission defense could prevent the kind of defeat he suffered against Du Plessis.
Israel Adesanya knocks Derek Brunson out in
Hands down, just teeing off on him. Bang!
Finally, the mental reset is perhaps the most important. Adesanya must rediscover the passion that fueled his rise. Without hunger, even the most skilled fighters cannot survive at the highest level. Possible futures. So, what comes next for Israel Adesanya? There are 3 possible paths. The first is a full comeback. If he makes the right adjustments, he could string together a few wins and put himself back into title contention.
Shot by Izzy right before the bell. The uppercut of Adesanya right there, shifting out of position. Then from feint.
And then he's going to go to the leg again.
The second is a shift into a gatekeeper role, where he remains competitive but no longer dominates the division. The third and harshest possibility is that the decline continues, leading to retirement within the next year or 2. Much depends on his mindset, his health, and how the UFC chooses to book his next fights. Adesanya is still a big name, and the UFC will want to maximize his star power, but fans will be watching closely to see if he still has the magic. Israel Adesanya's story is far from over, but it has entered a critical chapter.
He switches really good between southpaw and convention.
And that's what we haven't seen people able to do a lot with Izzy. Du Plessis able to match that energy with the stance switch.
Du Plessis so good at raising that guard and keeping it tight.
Once the most dominant striker in the UFC, he now finds himself at a crossroads after 3 consecutive defeats. His losses to Strickland, Du Plessis, and Imavov have exposed vulnerabilities that once seemed impossible to exploit. Yet, history has shown that Adesanya thrives when counted out. Whether this is the end of his reign or the start of a dramatic comeback remains to be seen. For now, one thing is certain. Every fight from here on will define his legacy. Is this truly the end of Israel Adesanya, or will the last stylebender surprise us once more? Only time will tell.